I'm also one to peel back labels, or peel back price tags. I try very, very hard never to actually remove the label, so I am not actually violating some sort of weird price changing scheme. But if you're gonna put the frickin' label over or put the price tag over the frickin' information, how do you expect anyone to buy it? Because even before I was reselling, I wanted to know what I was buying. So whatever, off my soapbox.
Well, if you got a dollar, well, just lousy down. Know that I got rhythm that could suit your budget fine.
Hi, this is Patrick, Trusty Huckster Mercantile. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, well, welcome to you too. Trusty Huckster Mercantile is an online reseller, primarily with a presence on Etsy, a little bit on eBay, doing some live sales here on YouTube, as well as a brick and mortar business in the Rustic Fox of Northern Illinois. This video is going to highlight some items that I picked up in a Goodwill, a local Goodwill, that will end up in, well, I'm not sure where all of them are going to end up. Some of them will end up definitely in the live sales that I hold here on YouTube on Thursdays at 8 p.m. I do those every week. Been doing those since last May. Those are pretty popular on YouTube right now. You may have seen some of them on some other channels. The only difference, mine, I just don't do the auctions. I just give you a price, first one to claim it, that's what you get. Some things might end up in my booth, but we'll see. I will just say, for anything that you see in the video today, if there's something you're interested in, drop me a note. And if you like it, more than likely, I'll just sell it to you. So just let me know. So what I've got here is kind of a mix. Again, if you're new to my channel, you may not be familiar with the idea that I tend to have a couple areas that I really go deep into, and that's primarily pottery, porcelain, and glass. The haul today, with no intention in any way, no theme, ended up being pretty heavily in the pottery and porcelain area. No apologies, just that is what it is. But I picked up a variety of items, and one of the also almost unique things that happened this time, I've not been into Goodwill in a while. It has nothing to do with the current situation that we are in. It's simply I had too much inventory. So I had plenty of stuff to sell in my live sales. I had plenty of stuff to fill my booth. I have plenty of items going up on Etsy and eBay. I didn't need anything. But I had also collected some boxes of things that I wanted to donate. So while I was making a donation, I figured I'd swing in. And I ended up buying some items that were not on sale. And to be honest, that's kind of what I'm looking for, because again, I have areas that I like, but I don't really specialize in one specific thing. So it's not like I'm on the lookout for one specific item. It's literally just like, do I think this could sell, or do I think it's worth picking up? And this time, for the first time really that I can remember, I'm actually purchased items that were full colored price. The Goodwills around here do a one color tag, goes half price every week. So there were two. I think there ended up being two items that I did purchase that were 50% off. And to be honest, I purchased them because they were 50% off. Had they been full price, I probably wouldn't have bought them. But the others I thought were special and kind of neat enough that I figured, you know what, I think it's worth the price that they're asking. And I will then, try and resell it someplace else. The first will be an area that is something for people that do follow my channel will not be surprised. I found coasters. But the coasters I found were a little bit different this time. First of all, they're Christmas coasters, and it is now February. So no shock that Goodwill had still Christmas items for sale. These are just inexpensive. They're the little paperboard coasters. But I like the designs on them. I like the colors of them. I thought they were pretty. The upside down bird. You've got the cardinal on the back side. You've got the chickadee. And to be perfectly honest, they're in this little sleeve. I wasn't 100% sure what they were. And I'm like, okay, kind of looking at the edge. I'm like, I'm thinking they're coasters, but I'm not really sure. And it wasn't obvious to me at the time in the store that there was a way to open this up. I thought they were sealed. Well, it turns out after I got it home, I discovered there was the little flap on the top that you see in some of these little, the plastic sleeves like this. So I was able to open it. I was able to confirm they are coasters. And also confirm they are not old at all because they're from the Veteran of Foreign Wars with their website on them. So not really falling in the vintage world. So these will not end up on Etsy. To be honest, these will be one of those things that goes into one of my live sales. I've got Trusty's bargain bin, and I picked these up for inexpensively enough that I'll just put them in the bargain bin, so I'll sell them for $2. So, they're 4 coasters. They're just a little paperboard, but they are nice, and they are still in their original packaging, even though it's open, it's been resealed. They'd make just a nice little stocking stuffer or even, a hostess gift or something like that. So I thought this was definitely worth it. February or not, it's inexpensive enough. I can pass them on inexpensively, and they'll probably sell in my live sale. But that was the only coasters I got. I will show that's kind of Christmassy, that is Christmassy. This technically isn't 100% Christmas, but one side of the box shows it is Christmas. But it's this box of vintage candles. So they're saying they're party candles, but then on the back side, it's got the Christmas candles, right there. But it is a full box. So you do have the original box, and you see it looks like it might have gotten warm at some point, some of the wax rubbed off onto the sides. I don't know exactly how old these are. There was a UPC code. So, you're probably, I think, UPC codes really didn't become common until the 80s. They existed in the 70s, but they were still relatively rare because people didn't have the systems to use the barcodes. But by like 84 or something like that was when they became common. So, these are not like 50s, although they put them in the Christmas tree design like, the Victorian area, like you're going to set your Christmas tree on fire. We're even just based on the graphics, I'm thinking we're probably in the 80s or 90s. Cool box. Cool set of candles. Even if people don't use the candles, I think this side of the box is a cool graphic and will look great. Again, it's February, it's Christmas, but this is again probably something I'll just put in the live sale because it's not really valuable enough to go onto Etsy. Not really special enough. They might sell there, but the live sales are fun, so I'd rather just have it go into something like that, give somebody a good deal of it. And so many of my customers are so creative in coming up with vignettes or tiered trays or the different things they do, whether they use the candles or not. I think the box will actually have a good home. So happy to provide it. So a couple of the items I got are, well, I'm not going to say they're related, but they're the same brand. They're not the same pattern, but admittedly, it's not a pattern or a brand that I pick up all that often. It's Falstaff. So this ends up being a case where I'll start with this one. It is a batter bowl. It actually happens to be the item that was half price. Had it been full price, I would not have purchased it. I felt it was overpriced. But by the time they did the half price, I'm like, okay, you know what? That's pretty attractive. I could not find, I need to look, I don't know Falstaff very well. So I need to do a little bit of digging. I tried to do Google Lens and a couple of descriptors, and I could not come up with the pattern. You can kind of see it. It's this bluish gray, maybe a little more blue than gray, but it's a bluish gray, and then kind of like this mauve pink. To me, because of that pink, this is probably like an 80s or 90s pattern. But I could not identify the pattern. And I need to do a little bit of research. It has the Falstaff logo on there, and I know it's changed over the years. I know what the oldest Falstaff looks like. I'm not sure at what point this came into play, so I'm not exactly sure how old this is. But when I started looking into it, I knew right when I found it, I knew it was a batter bowl. I do not know why I knew that, but it was batter bowl. So I was able to go on, look at Falstaff batter bowls, see what they sell for. They're not going for rockets, skyrocketing prices. But it is a cool piece. It is actually, I think it's a very cool shape. So it's just got basically a small mixing bowl, but it's designed as a batter bowl, so you can pour it. I just really liked it, and I figured this is, again, probably, I'll do a little bit more digging. Once I can find the pattern. If I can figure out what the pattern is, maybe this will go on to Etsy, because I'm pretty sure it's old enough to justify or qualify for Etsy, maybe eBay. But I need to see what they're selling for and how many others are out there. I found all kinds of Falstaff batter bowls, but I didn't find this pattern. And it's all about the pattern, because some patterns are more rare, some are more common. This is one of those cases, what I'm hoping is this is going to be one of those cases that, unlike dinnerware or serving pieces, you don't really have to match anything. Like maybe you've got some other mixing bowls you'd want to match, but it's not like if you're using the Yorktown pattern on your dinner table, you're going to be appalled by having a whatever pattern, batter bowl. So I'm hoping I'll get a little bit of wiggle room out of that. But if they're super common, I might just sell it in a live sale because it is kind of fun. And, it's false craft. Like I said, I don't really carry it that often. But know the name, know how to spell it, so I can do some Googling. So I still need to do a little bit more research. So that one I did pick up. Like I said, I picked that one up because it was half price. And I felt at the reduced price, it was something that I was still relatively safe. So in case this doesn't go for, big bucks, I'll probably at least get my money back out of it. This one was not at half price, but this is another false craft item. I first saw it because I thought the box looked cool. So I think when it was sitting there, it may have been on the counter like this, where it's kind of like, well, I actually don't know what that is. But you can tell just by looking at the box, there is some age to it. So then you turn it, and you see it is actually a false craft, but it is the Village pattern. Now, it has a zip code, so that does mean that this box was manufactured after 1963. So it's not super, super old. But it's nice because, again, doing some Googling, doing some research, doing some, WorthPoint. I've got a subscription to WorthPoint. Suddenly having this information makes it so much simpler. So this box is supposed to contain 4 napkin rings. Supposed to is the operative word. Because this is what I found. There are, I counted them at once, I want to say 20. It's either 20 or 24 of this pattern all wedged in there. So obviously it didn't have 4, but I did know because it had the Village name, I was able to Google it and figure out that this pattern with this dual heart, design, this is the Village pattern. So at least I had the box that matched these. It's just at some point these people had a really big dinner party and bought multiples of this pattern. They just kept one box and shoved everything in this box. So what I haven't decided yet is how I'm going to sell it, because I personally think there's value just in the box. I think the box is pretty cool. So if you happen to have this pattern or the napkin rings, like, you'd want the box. So looking at the sold comps, they don't sell for huge amounts of money. Like, they typically are listing between $2 and $3 a piece, like an individual one, and then selling, depending on how big the set is, anywhere from like $1 to $2 to maybe $3 or $4 per. So like a set of 2, you get a little bit more per, but if a set of 4 or 6, they're going for a lot less. So like, even if I only had $1 a piece in this, I'd make my money back plus a little bit of profit. So what I haven't decided is if I'm going to try and keep it as a set, where I'm going to keep all 20 together in the box, just like I found it, and sell it that way. Or if I want to take 4 and put it back in the box and sell a set of 4 because that's what the box says, and then sell the rest individually without the box, maybe I'd make more money, but it might take me a lot longer to sell them. So hey, if you've got any opinions on the best way to sell something like these, I have sold napkin rings before, but never anything this large. The one time I actually still have a set of Continental Airline napkin rings I need to list because I don't know what to do with them. I've got like 18. It's like a weird number, and I can't decide if I should sell them in pairs or sets of 4 or sets of 6. So they just sit in a box waiting for me to decide. So unfortunately, these may hit the same fate. So if if you're familiar, again, they're false crafts, so not the highest demand, but this is a relatively common pattern. And to be perfectly honest, even if you don't use this as your dinnerware pattern, it's actually a nice piece. It's just the cream colored stoneware and then the brown design. So like any brown dishes, any country kitchen, these would look great. So that's what I was counting on. Again, knowing that I'm not going to necessarily retire off of the sales of this, thought it was worth picking up and was happy to have them available, whether they go into a live sale or go up on Etsy. So the next item kind of, again, falls into the kitchen area, so kitchen pottery, kitchen porcelain. This ends up being one where I just have like a side story that kind of relates to this because I know different people treat this differently. I am a reseller. I don't feel like I need a 12-step program to talk about that. I also don't feel I need to hide it. I know a lot of people really try not to talk about being a reseller, and I'm not 100% sure I always know why. I don't ever think it's because people are embarrassed by it. I think in some cases they, I know in like garage sales or estate sales, they're afraid they're not going to get as good of a deal if somebody knows you're buying it to resell. And maybe there's relevance to that. I don't abide by that. But in something like a Goodwill, I'm sorry, when you see somebody walking around with a cart filled with books, cookware, dinnerware, glass, little tchotchke figurines, and small framed prints, what exactly do you think that person is doing? They're going to sell it. And there's really no reason to hide that. So I will be the one that's sitting there with my phone doing Google Lens, doing WorthPoint, doing eBay searches, doing regular searches, trying to figure out what these things are and whether I want to buy them. And I will do it right there, unless it's like busy and I don't want to be in somebody's way. I'll just do it right there at the rack. I've seen people like put it all in their cart and then they like go squirrel it away in a corner and they hide in the trench coat section and try and do the research. And then if they find they don't want something, this is the part that really bothers me, they just like put it on the nearest shelf. I'm like, wait, now those workers have to go find where that went. I just do the research right there. And the research pays off. You know, this is why I do specialize in specific areas that I love to be able. The research is what this is about. This is a side hustle for me. Trust me, I love making the extra money. It's a lot of work, so I need to have fun while I'm doing it. And some of what I have fun doing is researching things like this. So obviously, it is a butter dish. Less obviously, because Goodwill was kind enough to put their price tag right over the frickin' brand. I'm also one to peel back labels, or peel back price tags. I try very, very hard never to actually remove the label, so I am not actually violating some sort of weird price changing scheme. But if you're gonna put the frickin' label over or put the price tag over the frickin' information, how do you expect anyone to buy it? Because even before I was reselling, I wanted to know what I was buying. So whatever, off my soapbox. So once I figured out, I started recognizing that one of the names on it was Syracuse. But as you can see above it, it's not, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to want to focus as well as it should. It says Carefree, which I'd never heard of. I'd never heard of Syracuse Carefree. So initially, I just knew of Syracuse Carefree, did a search on it, and the range of prices for a butter dish were all over the place. I'm like, okay, well, what's this? You know, what's this pattern? Maybe I think this is a pretty universal looking pattern. Like this, you don't have to have the dinnerware that matches this to make this something usable, you know, in your collection. Well, once I pulled a little more of the label off, I suddenly discovered there was actually a name underneath it that gave the pattern in that banner. It's called Linfield. And I was very, very happy that I discovered this was Linfield, because this, I will just say, does not appear to be particularly common. There's only one listed on eBay right now, and it is listed for $55. And there are no sales history at all for the last 90 days. So, you know, there's no sales history. You could also say that means it's not necessarily popular, but that usually then coincides with there's 20 of them listed. So that's a bad combination. If you see 20 active listings and 0 sales, that means nobody wants this. And so it's probably not worth getting unless you're buying it super, 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 super cheap, and you're going to be one of the cheapest prices out there. This one, there's only one piece of competition on eBay, 0 competition on Etsy, which is where I'm going to list it. I think this is a lovely butter dish. I will not be trying to list it for $55. I do not think it's worth $55. This is where I need to go into my WorthPoint subscription to really detail how common have these sold, what have they actually sold for. But even if the listing that's listed right now is double, you know, what it's going for, I would be perfectly happy to sell this for $27.50. So I'm going to try and figure out a little bit more accurately what these are quote unquote worth, but there is no reason to hide the fact that you're going to resell this by doing research with information, you know, Googling, you know, that anybody could do. Anybody could do that. So I am not embarrassed. I don't like stand on top of my cart and, you know, research naked. Like I don't need to attract attention, but I'm also not embarrassed by it. So doing the research, this is something that I not found it Like if I hadn't figured out it was Linfield, I probably wouldn't have picked it up because again, the range of what things were selling for, all of them would have gotten my money back. That's not really the question, but it's, is it worth my time? And once I discovered it was Linfield, it was definitely worth my time, and I am very glad that I picked it up. I picked up this small item, this little ramekin, little cooking custard dish. Not because, again, I'm expecting it to, go, plan my retirement or anything, but I'm on the lookout for certain brands, and this is Royal Worcester. And Royal Worcester just falls into the category of anytime I see it, if I'm picking it up at a low enough price, I will buy it. Because, again, they're not hugely expensive prices, but it's extremely high quality porcelain that people are familiar with the name. And if you get them at an inexpensive enough price, whether you're selling it to a replacement or just as a standalone item, which probably this would end up being, people, if they're at the right price, people will pick it up. So this, again, is just a single ramekin. It's got the bisque, the unfinished porcelain that you would be using, like you would expect in bakeware. It does have a little bit of discoloration on the bottom, so I do think this has been used. Nothing wrong with that. But it's in absolutely perfect condition. There's no chips, there's no cracks. The design, I think, is, again, universal enough. I mean, what are those, blackberries or blue? I don't even know. Red and purple together. I'm not sure what that would make those. It's just a very simple design that would look good in any kitchen, and it's a functional piece. So this will probably just go into my live sale. I didn't even research it. I will research it before I sell it, just to make sure that this isn't some bizarre, like really rare, example. But I'm sure it's not. This is a very standard look for Royal Worcester. But I like Royal Worcester, so it's just one of those brands that when I see it, and if I get it at a good enough price, I will pick it up. I don't expect high returns, but I will always expect at least some return on my investment, and I think this piece will be no exception. This next piece I'm actually kind of excited about, and I admittedly I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it, but again, it falls in the category of it's a fairly standard item with a very popular brand name on it, with a Hershey's label on it. It is Wheaton. It's very clearly marked. It's Wheaton glass. So it's probably not, particularly old. Wheaton did a lot of things in the 70s and 80s. Again, it's very clearly marked, so we're not talking about super, super old or anything antique. It does have a very old font to it. I'm not sure if Hershey's has a standard font, but that H does not look like the current H. So I do think there's some age to this. But what I was surprised by, I can't find it. I couldn't find it on eBay. I couldn't find it on Etsy. I couldn't find it on WorthPoint. And I couldn't even find it when I did a generic Google search. I searched for Hershey's, canister, bottle, can't remember, wire top. I can't remember. I tried to do a bunch of combinations. This can't be that rare. It's Wheaton glass. It can't be that rare. But I can't find it. So again, I was in the store. I was a little bit rushed. I was, but I was Googling and I was scrolling. Like doing Wheaton glass anything is really, really a big response. You get a lot of things returned. So I was trying to scroll, and when I try to do Wheaton glass Hershey or Hershey's, which I also discovered, if you just do Hershey, you don't get anything. Sometimes when you do Hershey's with the apostrophe S, suddenly things pop up. So that was kind of an interesting lesson just from eBay and WorthPoint. You needed the apostrophe S. I was afraid it's going to screw up the search. I just never found it. So, it was alongside two other ones that were not Hershey's, and I'm hoping I do not regret not picking up the other ones. The other one was it was actually a little bit different size, but it was Wheaton, but it was just plain. And then the third one was this size, and it just had little, I don't know if they were technically Christmas trees. It was really more like it was like forest. It was just like a whole series of very simplistic, like it was a triangle on a square, just like all the way around one side of the bottle. I couldn't find that one either. Google Lens didn't help me. So anyway, this will probably just end up in a live sale because I don't know, what I would list it for on Etsy. Even though I can't find it again, I can't imagine these are particularly rare. So I'll just sell it on one of my live sales, and I think it'll be a really fun find because you fill that with some Hershey Kisses. It's a cool jar, and it's actually functional because it still has the little rubber seal in there. So the what do you call this? It's not the baling wire, but the whatever wire. I mean, it's all functional. So, yay! And who doesn't love Hershey's? So that'll be going into probably my next or one of my upcoming live sales. All right. My last two items, I'm going to blame Tim and Ma Dukes from over the years for picking these up. Not really. I love Tim. I love Ma Dukes. They could never steer me wrong. But I had done a little bit of a rabbit hole for the booth that I mentioned that I have at the Rustic Fox. And I did a bunch of teapots. I even bought tea to sell. I had tea cups. I had tea strainers. I tried to do like this whole tea thing at the booth prior to Christmas, thinking that would make really nice Christmas gifts. The tea sold okay. A couple of the teapots sold. Some of the tea cups sold. It wasn't a failure, but it was not an overwhelming success. And I still have several of the teapots that I am still in the process of trying to sell. The learning experience from there is, okay, so teapots don't sell particularly well for me. Well, I just bought two more. So it's one of those cases when you start watching other people's channels, you never want to have channel envy, you never want to have sales envy or whatever, but when you find people who are exceptionally knowledgeable and they're doing things well in certain areas, you do have to start wondering, like, is there something there for me? And they sell tea items, particularly teapots, all of the time. So when I really looked at what I had in my collection, I realized, well, a lot of what I had was not particularly special. I had a couple haul pieces. Most of those did sell. But that was really it. The other ones, some of them weren't even marked, or they were a little bit more contemporary. Like they had one that was made in Taiwan. So it really didn't have like a true vintage feel. I wasn't giving people a reason to find them, and the brands weren't, really there. I was purchasing them thinking they were pretty, and somebody would buy it because it was pretty. Well, either my definition of pretty is wrong or whatever. So I really had thought, I'm just going to steer clear of teapots until I found these. Now, this one I admit, obviously, well, I'm not going to say obviously because there's always arguments, but I will say this is not a teapot. This is a coffee pot. I believe when they are taller like this, that was what defines them as a coffee pot. I actually did some searching on this thinking maybe even carafe, because it's almost like one of those insulated carafes, but this is, once I found this, this actual item is universally referred to as a coffee pot. I picked this up, and admittedly, it was the most expensive thing I bought that day. So it was one of those cases where everything about it, it's a very distinct style. Everything about it would indicate, you probably don't want to pick this up. You haven't had a lot of success with it. Until I flipped it upside down. It's Villeroy Boch. So again, just like I talked about Royal Worcester, because I do a lot in porcelain, you start recognizing certain names. Villeroy Boch is one of those names. So this one happens to be, and Villeroy Boch is a very high quality, high quality porcelain manufacturer. I like the weird reason I like them above others is because they're manufactured in Luxembourg. What else comes out of Luxembourg? It's like the size of my dining room table. So, and no disrespect to Luxembourgers, don't hunt me down. It's not the manufacturing mecca of anything. So the fact that there's this 100, 200-year-old porcelain manufacturer that's in the very small country of Luxembourg, I think that's really cool, and that they're known for a very high quality product. This does not, to me, scream high quality product. It's a very folksy, way of illustrating. But if you look, that's not a farmhouse. That's a mansion, because that woman's in a ball gown. That guy's in 18th century knickers. This is not like the American Heritage series that Sears did in the 70s. This is a very different piece. So this one, and again, this is one of the reasons I like porcelain, is because everything you need is right there. It is Villeroy Boch. They were founded in 1748. Okay, this company is older than our country. It is the American Sampler, first impressions, 1981. And that didn't surprise me at all that something like this would be from 1981. There is also, and I'm sure there's some significance to this, there's an impressed mark. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. There's an impressed mark of a 3. So I think that indicates the size. So maybe it's at 3 quarts. Can't be 3 liters. There's no way 3 liters would fit in this. So I'm not sure what exactly the 3 is representing. But everything is very clearly marked. I did some hunting then for this pattern. This is not a common item again. So it falls in like I was talking about the butter dish. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's just not often made available on the market. So for people that are looking for it as a replacement or an addition to their collection, there aren't a lot of pieces available to them. So even though it's the most expensive thing that I purchased in Goodwill that day, I think if I put this onto Etsy, I'd never go for the high end of any prices, but I will definitely be able to recoup my money a couple times over, if not 3 or 4 times over, based on the fact that there just aren't a lot of these available. And it is a very good manufacturer and a popular pattern that just doesn't always have this. Now, maybe not everyone needs the coffee pot, but this as a display piece, just sitting on a shelf is an attractive piece. And it is kind of a cool shape, as coffee pots go. So that was, so again, probably shouldn't be going into teapots. And I may be doing another video 6 months from now going, oh my God, what was I thinking? But for now, I'm very excited to have another piece of Villeroy Boch. Every piece that I've offered for sale on Etsy before have sold fairly quickly. So I'm hoping that this will fall into that mix. The other one I'm less confident on, but again, based on the research I was doing, this pattern does not appear to be particularly common. At no point am I going to say it's rare or scarce because you're just looking at a snapshot in time. But it is a specific manufacturer, Cha Cult, which seems kind of made up. But it is a German manufacturer. It says right there on the side that is from Hamburg. I was able to find other Cha Cult teapots of this exact same shape, with this style handle, with this style spout, the very flat bottom. So the shape is not particularly rare. I just couldn't find this color pattern, but I did find many that had this style of block coloration. To me, this is very, I could see this on the set of Saved by the Bell. I think this is like a very maybe 80s, but maybe 90s, look. They had others of this same aesthetic that were selling very nicely and selling for very good prices. So this ended up, again, being one that, I do think the name has some recognition, again, as a German manufacturer. And if you're not familiar with my channel, this household, we have a lot of support for all things German and Austrian. So when I see things that are German or Austrian, I do tend to lean that way. I just think it's cool. I mean, this is not something you're going to see in your everyday kitchen. And so if somebody's looking for something distinct, it's got several color palettes in there. So you can do anything from the reds, the burgundies, the oranges, the yellows, you've got a nice mix there. And it's even got the gold accents. So, maybe again, 6 months from now, I'll be like, oh my God, I should have just listened to myself. And Tim and Ma Dukes have some special sauce that I don't have. But I felt that these were fun additions and gonna try them out. So what do you think? Did I find anything good at Goodwill? I think I did. I think some things will be easier to sell and maybe sell for a little bit more on my return on investment than others. But I feel like I've kind of reached a new level as I'm shopping at Goodwill that I'm not just looking for the cheapest item that I can just turn around for a few extra bucks. You add things together, even items in my live sale, I buy all new boxes. I buy all new bubble wrap. I take good pride in how I ship things. It's very difficult to put, sell $5 worth of merchandise in packaging that could cost me $5, depending on how fragile it is. So it's one of those things that I need to look at, well, what can I build, spend a little bit more to make a little bit more, but still have fun doing it. So like the coasters, you know, that I'm not going to make a lot of money doing it, but I'm also not going to lose anything because I can toss them in an envelope. So I've thought a lot more about how easy things are to ship or how difficult things are to ship, and making sure it's kind of like, I hate to use the term worth my while because that puts it like I was in some special category. It's not that. It's simply that this is a side hustle. I really only get to do this on the evenings and weekends. And once I start traveling again for my job, I may not even have as much time to do that. So I need to make sure that when I'm doing it, it's not a chore, that it's not like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. This is a pain or whatever. So it's like I still want to have fun, and I want to test different things out. And you know what? I bought a hat because of Tim. That was a bad mistake. That has now been on my eBay store for like a year. But you know what? That's not Tim's fault. That was just like I saw one thing that Tim talked about hats, and I didn't pay close enough attention. So you never know. You know, just like people watching me, you don't base your reselling plans on me. But I have learned things along the way, things that work for me, things that haven't worked for me, and you know what? We're just all making it up as we go along. So appreciate you joining me. Appreciate you hanging out with the channel. If you've gotten this far and you're not a subscriber, I would really appreciate you going ahead and subscribing, maybe hit the like button. It does make a difference. People may not think it does, but it does help me get found by other people. I am trying to grow my channel. You know, I'm very grateful that I've grown quite a bit in the last year. Always looking to do more. So if you can help me do that, I would really appreciate it. If you saw anything in this haul that you like, drop me an email, drop a comment into the YouTube chats. Let me know what you're looking for, and you know, maybe we can work something out, and I can ship it to you. I just want to sell it. I don't care who I'm going to sell it to. And I think in this particular case, which is not always the case, I'm not keeping anything. Hey, how'd that happen? Well, I'm not keeping anything. So it's not like you're going to, you know, trying to buy something. I'm like, no, it's mine. You know, in this case, it's all for sale. So thanks for joining me. Thank you for giving me your time, and thanks for putting your trust in Trusty Huckster. Bye-bye.
Well, show me a sign if you're wishing me to stay. Otherwise, I say goodbye, finish out the day. And that sunrise in the morning and you got nothing to say. Oh, that's when I'll be headed on my way. Hey, I hope I can abide by your area codes, and I'm bound to wander